Not putting in that much work to this.
No, dog.
Oh shit! It goes auto live.
Okay.
All right.
Let me just get my headphones. I thought I was gonna have a minute.
Well, you don't. I think it's carrying over settings from StreamYard, but
Probably. Doesn't say you're live for me yet.
oh
Yeah.
well. If I don't have the go live button, I have the end stream button. I think
Okay.
it's there. I don't know. It might just be the delay,
Yeah.
but I think we're live now.
Yep. Yep.
All right. Hello there, everyone. Welcome back to another exciting installment of Tapcaf Transmissions, the only Star Wars podcast that is currently talking about the new Jedi Order, Force Heretic II, which is Refugee, but also book what, like 16 of the new Jedi Order?
Is it true that you've read the NJO twice since we started?
Yeah.
Wow.
I keep thinking like, oh, we'll be getting. I think I read it once before we got to NJO. We were around there because I needed it for other stuff, and
Yeah.
then once we got to in like the break between or
We
before
did
we did
take
Star by
quite a
Star, I think.
long.
Yeah,
Yeah, we took quite a long
I
break.
finished it, and then I read Dark Nest because I was going to try to get through all of it and finally do my video on whether or not I actually think Jason was a good character, but then I just didn't because I haven't finished. I got halfway through Betrayal. I was like, I'm not continuing yet because we're starting to catch back up. But
Yeah.
anywho, before we get into our nice book discussion tonight at a different time, any Star Wars news you want to talk about this week?
No.
Nothing?
I'm just trying to think if there's anything worth talking about.
Well, I was setting you up to mention the unfortunate passing of Mr. James Earl
Oh yeah, Mr.
Jones.
James Earl Jones. Yeah. What can you say? I mean, he was 93. He had a good life.
Yeah.
Um, did you have a non-Star Wars James Earl Jones memory, or was it just Lion King,
I don't know if this guy. Okay,
Sandlot?
I didn't love The Lion King as a kid. It was one of my least favorite Disney's.
Mhm.
But I don't know if this counts as non-Star Wars, but there's a YouTube video that takes his lines from a different movie and puts it over Star Wars.
Mhm.
So I think he's like a teacher or something in the movie. I started thinking about it again when he died. I haven't watched it in years, but it really stands out as a key James Earl Jones moment for me. But
Is that I'm trying to think of the name of that movie. Um, is it The Reading Room?
maybe
Yeah.
uh yeah, I don't remember what the video even necessarily was, so I'm not 100% sure, but yeah.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
that's my
So
James Earl Jones memory.
so rest in peace, Mr. Jones. I'm just looking at his quite a long. His last movie was Coming to America, like the sequel to Coming to America. And then he's listed as being in The Rise of Skywalker when like at the very beginning when he kind of pops in his voice when Palpatine is making voices. That to me did kind of sound like it might be him because it definitely sounded older, like he did in Rogue One.
Yeah. Like
Which
he only retired from The Voice in 2022, and I feel like a movie having him would have been like they would have gone to
yeah,
him first rather than a replacement voice actor.
right,
But
yeah, because he also did Rebels, I believe.
yeah,
Um, but I know he sounded different in Rogue One, especially because I think that's kind of where he did most like the most Vader like he was trying to be original trilogy Vader.
yeah,
And it was different, but I actually liked that because it did feel like a new performance. Whereas, like, you know, the Moff Tarkin bit or the Leia bit, it's just like, okay, I like it, but I'm glad because in Kenobi, I believe he did some stuff, but it really feels mostly like it's a robot at that point.
yeah,
Ironically,
yeah. His voice became more machine than man.
yeah.
But Disney. I haven't read too much about this yet, even though
Mhm.
I do want to kind of make a video about it. But Disney's getting sued by
Mm.
uh
Peter, is it Peter Cushing?
I think it's Peter Cushing's friend or something that's doing it, but over the kind of like deep
Hmm.
fake in Rogue One. But
Yeah.
James Earl Jones did like sell his voice basically to Disney, to Lucasfilm, to use as Darth Vader going forward. And like, I
I
don't
don't
know.
blame.
No, I
If
don't
I'm,
blame him, and I like
yeah.
it. Technically, it's an actor giving their consent, so like there some of the issues I normally have with that are addressed there, but it's like a
Mhm.
systemic thing. It's like
Yeah.
I don't know, I don't love the implications of that for like other actors who won't do that because like it's a
Hmm.
solidarity thing at that point. You know, like I'm not blaming him for that, but
Hmm.
it's also like I'm fine with recasting people. Like there's a lot of people who could do a good homage to that and have
Well,
it
they've got a
still be
guy who
like a
does a great
new,
job now.
yeah, Hayden Christensen.
Well, they got another guy, I forget his name, but he does it for like the games, and he does a really good
Yeah,
job.
like especially
Um,
for Vader, like I would rather have like it's not like it's his voice anymore. It's a fucking AI model trained on his voice. It's
yep.
like it's not James Earl Jones anymore. It's so like it just have Sebastian Stan play Luke.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to go too far into spoilers for the film because it's still in theaters, but there's a new Alien movie, which, again, without getting into spoilers,
You were gonna talk about Return of the Jedi or something.
yeah, there's this new little movie. No, there's a new Alien movie which does a really um, bizarre bit of AI resurrection, I guess. Um, and I was watching the review of the Red Letter Media guys, and sometimes they hit it for me, and sometimes they don't. And they had a good point where, like, yeah, there could have been, a really good. I'm trying not to spoil what the character is, but there could have been a really a brand new actor no one's ever heard of in that character role, and now because they chose to, instead resurrect a character from the past, we're losing out on that opportunity. And it's, with Darth Vader, it's a little less important because either way, you're trying to sound as close to James Earl Jones as you can. But with like Sebastian Stan, maybe he could have given us a cool version of middle-aged Luke. That hope maybe we will get at some point, but we certainly didn't for Mando.
Yeah, like it's so limiting for what those characters can do as well. Like they can kind of
Hmm.
only be there for that little nostalgia cameo if you're not gonna go like all the way and just have a new person play the character. And like maybe I'm too like soap opera brained or something, but like to me a lot of the Star Wars shtick is kind of soap opera-y. So like the role of Luke Skywalker will now be
Yeah,
played
totally.
by like it's a
Yeah,
it's a space opera. It's a soap opera. It
no,
we can get by
it's
on this.
100% agree. It's also supposed to be like a fable, like it's been running for 50 years now. Like there's not many people of the original trilogy left, which is
Mhm.
quite sad. But I mean, that doesn't mean the story has to stop. Um, the only time that I've ever really seen the de aging done really well. Have you ever seen Blade Runner 2049?
No.
Okay, well, there's a really good bit of de aging in that. That is like that movie came out in like I don't know, maybe like 2017,
Hmm.
and nothing has come close in my opinion. But it kind of has the effects of it happens in a dark room and stuff, and she's the character it's the character Rachel from the original movie. I can't remember the name of the actress who plays her.
Jennifer
Um,
Aniston.
yeah, Jennifer Aniston. Um, but they do the de aging really well. It helps that she's a replicant and she's like kind of just been born, so she doesn't really need to act. She's just like right there. But
Yeah.
that would not be Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford is also in the scene, and that would not be his only run in with de aging. So
Yeah, like I'm fine with it in limited situation. Like if you want to have a scene with Han Solo younger or a scene with Luke, like I don't hate like the use of it in the Mandalorian. If that's all you need it for, and there's someone else doing stuff sometimes, or like Mark Hamill's in the show for another reason, fine if it's like a flashback for the same character, de-age version, whatever. Like
Mm.
they're just so going so far out of their way to ever recast some of these characters, even though like I think Donald Glover did a great job. I think Alden Ehrenreich did a good job. Like I had
Yeah.
those two cases went fine for me, and I'd be happy to see more of it. But
Yeah, I much preferred those. Like the one, like I think what the kind that you're talking about would be, for example, when Leia appears in the flashback in the Rise of Skywalker for like a second,
yeah,
when she's young and training, like that's
yeah.
probably okay.
Yeah,
Um,
like when Carrie Fisher was going to be in more of that movie, having not died, and then they have like you've already got Mark Hamill already as Luke in that movie and the prior movie, having them both like de-aged for a quick scene like that. I think that's fine. I don't think you need to recast for that. But
Mhm. I really like what they did. Looper, that's a fun one. Have you seen Looper? The other Ryan Johnson movie?
not sure.
It's it's fuck, what's his name? Bruce Willis is the old
Right?
version,
Yeah,
and Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
yeah,
And like
yeah.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Bruce Willis don't really like at first glance look a lot like each other, but and so I think some people did kind of make fun of it, but that movie would have failed if they had, you know, either up-aged Joseph Gordon-Levitt or down-aged Bruce Willis. But there's
Yeah.
one. So the idea of Looper is basically you are a like this. It's a universe where time travel has been invented, and you people are sent from the future back to the past to be killed, basically, without leaving any evidence. And if you're a looper, that means you're basically one of the people who kills them in the future or in the past. But eventually, you kind of know that they're gonna close your loop. So you do your killing, you get like 30 years with your money, and then they send your ass back, and you get killed by yourself.
That actually kind of
Um,
reminds me of the book that Ilkin got. I do want to watch it, but that reminds me of the book that Ilkin got me for Christmas. Me and Dana. It's like the guy keeps dying and getting resurrected.
oh, like
That
Forever War, or not what's that was? You mean the one that the Tom Cruise movie is based on?
it's the first some number of lives of Harry August. It's
Oh, okay. I thought you meant like Edge of Tomorrow, like because
no,
that's kind of like the Edge of Tomorrow was like
yeah.
a Groundhog Day thing.
Well,
I
with
forget the
this
name
one,
of.
the fear is like people could go back and like prevent your birth somehow. So like some of them
Uh,
start disappearing because they're
uh,
like passing information back and forth through their lives, but
mhm.
then some of them start disappearing. They need to figure out why. But
All
when
you
you're
need is kill. That's the name of it. Sorry.
if you were uh to want to be immortal, then Star Wars colon the New Jedi Order colon Force Heretic II colon Refugee has a great way to do it that I have already turned into a lore video for tomorrow. So
I actually really like this book,
yeah.
but it's funny. So people might remember my story from last week or from last time, book one, where I started reading this one. I was like, man, they really fucking jumped right in. So I was like, I'm not going to. I only read like up to 15% on the Kindle. I was like, I'm not going to reread that. I'm just going to listen to the truncated audiobook. It completely ignores the everything but the Bakura stuff,
Hmm.
which I think is totally fine. But I mean, I did end up reading the whole book, but I was like, yeah, that's a fair choice. If you want to bring it down to 3 hours, just completely cut the Chiss stuff. Not much happens. They get a lead, and yeah.
Yeah, so the book has, I guess, what, three main plots where you have still the Luke company uh going into Chiss space. They get invited to a nice Chiss library and they're looking for a sign of Zonamasi Cod still. So
It's
they're
basically the Breakfast Club. No,
and
it's
Jason
not.
gets hit on by his sister's boyfriend's younger
That was so
sister.
fucking weird,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Like, I was rereading that. I was like googling that. I was like, people must have talked about this in the past, but like, am I reading this wrong? I was like doing the math. I think that like the writer of this book got the dates wrong because he kept saying Bakura had thrown off the Empire nearly 30 years ago, but it was like 20 years
It
ago.
was 4 ABY and they're in 29 ABY. So 25 years
Is it
ish.
20? Is it 29? Okay,
We're
I was
getting
thinking it was
close
like
there. Like it's 28,
okay,
29
fair enough.
ABY. But
I was thinking it was like 25.
yeah, well, I guess we'll go through the Luke plot first, but just to
There's really not a
lay
whole
out
lot.
yeah. So we've got that plot going on. The other plot that kind of just goes through the book but doesn't really resolve anywhere is Nominor still putting together, getting more traction with his shamed one Jedi cult, hoping that
He's
he'll be
such a
able to
petty
get rid of
bitch.
Shimra. That's what most cults are built on. Like a
Yeah,
nice successful cult, you've got to be a little petty.
yeah,
He could be a great
that's true.
YouTuber.
Yeah,
The
um,
Am I forgetting another one? I guess I'm thinking of like
yeah,
Tahiri as a B plot in the Bakura stuff, but the main
yeah.
plot is we get the return of the dinosaurs on Bakura. Han and Leia are still doing their job of going to all the past villains of Star Wars to see how they're getting disrupted by the Yuzon Vong. So they get to Bakura. They find out that the Bakurans are about to sign a peace treaty with the Pwek, who have overthrown their Ssi-Ruuvi masters. It turns out, though, that the Pwek have not in fact overthrown their Ssi-Ruuvi masters. It is in fact Pwek who are still slaves, plus some Ssi-Ruuvi who have
Yeah,
painted
it was very.
themselves to look like Pwek, which should
But
not be
also, there's
convincing.
some real Poek who do revolt. So I guess the Poek
Eventually.
never actually revolted. They were just
No.
kind of still slaves and along for the ride. Just to completely jump the gun, my favorite part, I think this book does a great job of making the Ssi-Ruuvi seem absolutely terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that I think is because on the audiobook, the sound they have for like when they make like it's just terrifying. It's like a howling combined with like a whale song. It just makes them sound like these big guttural monsters. So the very end of the book, spoiler alert,
Just say the
the
slur. You know you want to say the slur.
I will get to that. But the 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 prime minister,
Undertall.
uh yeah, Chenderthal is brought to the ship of the what he thinks is the Ssi-Ruuvi, and it's revealed that I mean there's a hint at this earlier that yeah the Ssi-Ruuvi are taking advantage of this, but really it's the Yuuzhan Vong trying to exacerbate kind of
Mm-hmm.
old tensions. And he describes like this scene where he's terrified because the Ssi-Ruuvi face goes away and it's just a Yuuzhan Vong. As if like a Yuuzhan Vong is less terrifying than a 10-foot tall fucking velociraptor.
Yeah.
Like a Yuuzhan Vong is creepy. Like these Ssi-Ruuvi are like they're dinosaurs with guns who literally steal your soul. Like if I were trapped, I would be relieved that I'm just going to be murdered by the Yuuzhan Vong and not have my soul put in a fucking blender for 600 years.
How does that work though? Like, are the Ssi-Ruuvi's legs even articulated the same way as the Yuzon Vong's? How good are these
Yeah,
Uglith maskers?
there's been a few times where I've really had to like question the effectiveness of the Uglith
Yeah.
maskers. Like, yeah, this was one of the funkier ones.
Like
Because no, they're not.
I actually really like this book made me a lot more interested to hear more about the Ssi-Ruuvi. And
Yeah,
like
me
it
too.
was really setting up the possibility of another story with them. Because like we end with the Pwek kind of overthrow. We'll get to this with their
Are they
plot
not in
later,
the
but
third
like
one at all?
I don't think they ever come up again.
Okay, that sucks.
Like they're just gone. But they set up like
Mhm.
the oh well we've killed the Kiramak. The Pwek are gonna be able to organize now. They don't portray it as like oh the Kiramak's dead, everything's good now. It's like no, this is
Mhm.
gonna be the start of a big process. Then you have like Athena, the Yuzon Vong posing as a Ssi-Ruuvi, saying like oh it's fine, like this is all part of our plan. We're still destabilizing the Ssi-Ruuvi, but like he's still got a plan within the Ssi-Ruuvi because he thinks like Kundertal, if he hadn't asked for his money
Yeah,
back for his meat for his robot,
yeah,
he
he
would have
did
been
like half
going to
the job.
Lek.
Yeah,
So like
because there's
I
like
like that
massive
setup.
Ssi-Ruuvi fleets.
Yeah,
You'd think.
like it's setting it's the same way that Unifying Force sets up like well, again spoiler, but it there's so much coming out of the Yuzon Vong War that gets set up in a way that could be interestingly dealt with that just never gets mentioned after
Mhm.
it. But since we did we'd talk about the Luke stuff first,
Mm,
they get to Chiss space, or well, it
mhm.
opens with this. with
It's so
them on a
fucking weird.
weird planet trying to track the
Imagine how
Genesee guy.
confused I was thinking this was the first book in the series. I'm like, what is going on? Reading it the second time, I'm like, what is going on? So I just skipped it.
Like
Fuck
it's
that.
a cold it's a cold open even in the context of reading the
Yeah,
right book.
yeah.
So like they're
Like being
on
chased up a hill by like deer, essentially. Like
it. They're like
they almost get killed by like
they're these
semi-sentient creatures.
symbiont species that are like there used to be a species that was unintelligent and just eaten,
Mhm.
but then they'd
Mhm.
gone evil and because of Zonamic Seacot passing through and causing chaos. So
Chaos.
hell, but
Look at Tsunami Seacot. It's red. It's red. This is what the modern man has to go through. It should be lush and verdant around a gas giant. Instead, it's red, traveling through hyperspace. Not meant to withstand those pressures.
they've
Sorry.
militarized the rats.
Don't
But
let them consecrate the world. Don't.
yeah, so they have a nice team building exercise between Luke and the stormtroopers. They end up
We're
going.
supposed to care about these stormtroopers. I forget about their names instantly.
They're I don't know. Some of the ways the Imperials
I'm just like,
work
oh,
are
Tackley's here.
if only. Beckley needs more screen time, but
Yeah, too short.
oh, she's gonna wait on the ship always. But they get to Chilla. They're invited to Chilla when they leave the first planet where they're still looking for Zonama Seacot, but the Chiss don't necessarily believe they only want to find this mythical planet. So,
Mm.
in order to
I
make
definitely thought it
sure,
was Scylla, by the way, growing up.
yeah, it looks like that, but it's Hungarian for
Of course.
star.
Yeah,
So
of course it is.
I think it's Ch.
No, it definitely is because the audiobooks say Chilla.
It's because it's and get this, it's cold there. It's an ice planet. It's cold.
Yeah.
But I actually so we read and you hated the the Thrawn Ascendancy trilogy, where
I wouldn't
they
say I hate. No, yeah, fair. Continue.
where they talk about how Chilla was like no one actually lives there. It's just like this frozen ball now that the Chiss play up as their capital, but even within Chiss society, no one realizes that it's just kind of empty and no one's allowed to go into the cities. And you get that feeling here as well. Like that it's not particularly
I don't
populated.
know, but on one, I agree with that. But this almost implies that the Chiss evolved on this planet, like the way
They
I
did
was
in
reading,
both continuities. But
and then the Chiss moved off world. I think we're back. The
yeah.
stream just restart.
Okay, yeah. So do you want to talk about the Chiss flashing?
Yeah, well, Corey's Donier beef internet failed. I did look up the Chiss stuff, and you were right. In canon, there was the star flash, which it didn't say a whole lot about the previous state of the world, but it dampened the sun essentially, and most of the Chiss left the planet. Um, I'm not quite sure about. Planet entered a great ice age, 5,000 BBY. That's in the Legends, so. Yeah, you're right. In both cases, I was under the impression like it kind of implies that the Chiss grew up in this cold. I guess they did in a way, but I was thinking while reading this like how amateur the Chiss writing is compared to like the Ascendancy trilogy, which makes sense because it's only a small portion of the book, but.
Yeah, like the biggest differences between Legends and canon come from for the Chiss come from just like them. They really go far to set up like all the families and what they're doing here,
Mhm.
and it feels kind of strange to be so in depth about it. What for something that's
When
so
like who
in
cares?
yeah,
Because like we've never heard of these people and we'll never hear of them again.
unfortunately, like
Yeah.
especially when like the difference between Thrawn's Empire of the Hand stuff and the Chiss was not really paid attention to by many writers at this point.
Mhm.
So there's some lore messes that come from that.
Yeah.
But they're taken to Chilla. They're given some library space to look through actual books, which everyone's blown away by, to find references to Zanama Seacot. And this is
Which I
where
don't understand how like I'm sorry, but
no,
the way they describe the library makes no sense. where they talk about how it's not cataloged and digitized and it's just books, but then they create algorithms to search for these like
Yeah.
planets. Like it makes no sense.
It's like solving a Rubik's Cube. She actually just wrote down like which pages to turn in which direction, and then it'd bring you the right book.
She knew the whole time. She just wanted to flirt with Jason for a
Yeah.
while.
Like so one of the things that's weird is with Win. So the person we're talking about here is Win Fell, Winessa Fell, daughter of Soontir Fell, sister of Jag Fell, and Sial Antilles. So this is Wedge's
Oh,
niece as
brother.
well. And it's a whole thing. So
Oh, brother.
what?
I don't know.
She's written like a 4-year-old to me. Like I
Yeah.
remembered this happening, and I was thinking like, oh, it's like Soontir's wife and their 4-year-old daughter comes around. She
I
is
pictured her like 12.
she's between 12 and 16.
Mm-hmm.
Like she's way too old for how she comes across in the first thing, and then she's like flirting with Jason. It's very weird.
Yeah. It's not good. And Jason's like, yeah, it's just don't maybe like make her 4 years older. Like make her explicitly his age instead of she's like the first scene we see her and she's with her mother who's like apologizing for like her being kind of socially not graceful.
Yeah, like the the Soontir stuff is just a little weird in general. Where
Mm-hmm.
uh, so Soontir doesn't want a mechanical eye because they need the mechanical eyes for the other pilots. That's his thing in Vision of the Future. So he doesn't
Mm-hmm.
have the best vision of the future.
Mm-hmm.
But now he wants to. First, he wanted to help the galaxy. Then he's like not wanting to help the galaxy, and Sile's not sure where she wants. So it's a little like they're intentionally. It's a little irrational on both for both of them. It's just
Yeah.
like they're all afraid of what's going on with the Yuzon Vong because it turns out the Vong have been fighting the Chiss for a lot longer than even some other people.
Mm-hmm.
But by the end,
Skirting around the edges.
Soontir is like angry at Mara for turning down helping them earlier. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It just
Yeah, so
it's all
there's like
very side.
he's also kind of at odds with some within the Chiss, and that's why like the conflict, which the audiobook completely skips, and I get the conflict is that there's an attack made on Luke, Mara. Is Jason with them? No, Jason's back at the
Jason's
library. Luke, Mara,
Abba.
Soontir, Soontir's wife, while they're in this like it's like a truck basically, or a bus, and that's like kind of the main thing, and we don't really know why the attack is happening at first. I was like, oh, is it the Yuzhan Vong? But no, it's basically one of the factions, one of the families, the syndics of the Chiss, are attacking because they don't like some of the stuff.
Yeah. So they're
Like,
working with Soontir's kind of set another person from the Empire, Pieta Abe.
mhm,
And like they act like a lot of the Imperials are coming into the Chiss. Like that's
mhm,
the thing with the Empire of the Hand where they kind of combine everything. Where it's not just like the people that had been working with Park and Soontir before. It was like the Empire has close ties with the Chiss in general. It's a
yeah,
little strange. But
yeah.
yeah. There's the kidnapping attempt, there's the assassination attempt, and
It's weird that you were not hearing a whole lot about the Chiss, because the big thing with the Chiss, like the big thing is that they, and I'm pretty sure this had been established, but they are not in favor of proactive military strikes. They talk about that in Thrawn Duology, right?
yeah, it's been established by this point. I think they even talk about it in the book.
Yeah.
When they're talking to Irolia when
But
they
you'd
first
think
meet her.
that would probably be the main. Although I guess at this point, if they have been attacked by the Vong, they
Yeah,
kind of
they have.
have their excuse. Yeah.
Yeah, they're already like they've been. So the Chiss got attacked by the Yuzon Vong. Like obviously a lot of this is later lore, but they got attacked.
Mhm.
Like they'd been fighting the Vong for like 60 years now. By the time of Outbound Flight, I think Aralani had already fought them.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah, she says something like that.
and
I
even
think.
but even in the book here, they say that around the time the first attacks were happening at Cernpital, they'd kind of come around and fought in the unknown regions with the Chiss.
Mhm.
So they're already at war as far as that goes, but it's like, do we get involved with the bigger galaxy war? But at that point, like, you're already fighting the Vong. It seems like a similar situation to the Empire, where there's some skirmishing maybe, but they think they're gonna get like the full brunt of an attack if they step in, or maybe they'll be left alone if they let the New Republic fall.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. So that's kind of that storyline. Eventually, they do get a hit because they're looking for. They're basically trying to find this mythical traveling planet, and they're finding lots of little reports, and they've got a pretty good idea of where they can go next. So that's setting up the next book. Because now they got the idea. Hey, this could be around a gas giant like Yavin. So that's where they're off to now.
Yeah, they were looking for a planet the whole book. Then they realized they should be looking for moons, or Jason realizes that when Danny's professing her love to him. And he's like,
Was she or was
wait
she
a minute.
friends with him? I couldn't really tell.
I think it was. I think it was. I think it was supposed to be romantic. I don't know.
Okay.
Like no, I think it. I think it definitely was
Well,
because
she says
Jason
she
was
could
building up.
grow up to the man I could see being a friend, but yeah, he was kind of about to
Yeah,
reject her maybe
because the authors
eventually.
just didn't know about Tenelka. So
Yeah.
this is what we're stuck with.
Yep.
But
Speaking of losing arms, should we talk about the current storyline?
anything about Nominor that's worth
No.
talking about? Because like that's a short story. Like a bigger build up happens
He
later.
instantly stabs someone and totally regrets it.
Yeah, big mistake. Who hasn't though?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So Nominor we're going to talk about more next time because that's when more of it starts being actually relevant. He's just building up the cult. Nothing
He's got
really develops.
a vision on he's got a mole on the inside now.
Yeah, he gets his mole. He gets to see Shimra kind of going a little crazy. He's not doing super well, even though we're not getting much of the war at all, like the rest of the
You kind
galaxy's
of
war.
know
Yeah,
things are going poorly because the Jedi keep, the Yuuzhan Vong, even without No Manor, are still trying to not just outright attack across the galaxy, but still cause these little conflicts, like we
Yeah.
first saw at Osarion and Ramamul in Book 1.
Yeah. Like it's a nice opportunity to go through. Still have the connection to the Vong where they're stirring up trouble. But we get a who's who of every Star Wars villain, and of
Yeah,
course, the
like this time we get to
Currans.
learn about a member important to the Skywalker family. That I'm sure you forgot about. That was what? Was that the first book? Was Truce of Bakura the first book we read?
Yeah, I think it was because
Yeah.
at that point we were still like, yeah, we decided we were going to go mostly chronologically with some jumping back and forth. So we did Truce of Bakura. That's where we established Incel Luke, and then
Very
got a
early
bunch
on.
of angry Spotify or a bunch of angry Apple Podcast reviews calling us fence sitters for
You do what you gotta
occasionally
do.
saying things exist in legends that we don't like and things exist in
Occasionally
canon
being
that we do.
accurate. Yeah.
Like fuck.
Yeah. But yeah, now we meet Melena Thanas, who, because I mean we saw them. Did we see them earlier on in the war? Gariel Captason. She
No,
dies.
she's dead in Corellian trilogy.
Oh yeah, Corellian trilogy. That's
Yeah.
right, Corellian trilogy.
And then
And
Peter Thanos has a fucking heart attack off screen.
yeah, because and we see Melena in the Corellian trilogy, which we did read. I forget. I remember so little of it now.
She's not in much. Like she's a 3-year-old. It's just we're about to go borrow your mom.
Yeah,
Say
basically
goodbye
like
because we're getting her blown up.
yeah, and then Luke's like, well, I have to come back here. Does he? Apparently he's been visiting her enough that she calls him Uncle Luke when talking about their relationship, which was kind of sweet, but like also totally not paid off. I thought, or totally not earned. But
Yeah.
hey,
We don't know what spare time Luke's had in the last few.
I mean, I think if you looked at you could probably like calculate like how much time they had based on what we've seen, and I'm sure there's a couple weeks that are missing between the Thrawn duology and New Jedi Order 1.
6 years.
Yeah.
And there's like the young Jedi Knight stuff, and he's not that busy in those. That explains why he's not actually helping with any of these problems. He's
True.
off visiting his other child. I wonder
Yeah.
how Mara actually. She doesn't mention Aunt Mara. She
Yeah. He hated Mara.
like, oh, don't worry,
Although
Mara. I'm gonna go visit my ex girlfriends to.
Jaina does say that Luke and Mara visited.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fair
But
enough. But Jaina
yeah, let
gets
me go
very
visit
defensive.
my ex girlfriend's or the girl who got away's daughter, real quick.
True, yeah.
Also,
We wouldn't have
my
been calling
fault.
him an incel if it was actually his ex girlfriend.
Yeah. Yeah. So Melinza, uh, who's only like 15 or 16, so they show up at Bakura kind of on this plan to, they're just going around the galaxy. The war's at a pretty important state, but they're going around the galaxy kind of shoring up important planets and trying to, make sure everything's okay. And they happen to come across a pretty big conspiracy going on. They arrive at Bakura, and it's revealed that much has changed since they've been last there. We knew Guriel Captain and Peter Thanas were dead, but there's been a more interesting development where the Poek, who are like a client species, I don't know if they are. They're probably related to the Ssi-Ruuvi because they're very similar. The Ssi-Ruuvi are basically dinosaurs, and the Poek are like smaller dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Um,
So it's not like officially confirmed or anything, but there's like in universe speculation
yeah,
that the Puek are descended from like Ssi-Ruuvi that were social outcasts because they had brown scales as well.
right.
So they can't be that visually dissimilar.
Yeah. So we see them, and the Ssi-Ruuvi are a lot like the Yuuzhan Vong in that they're extremely xenophobic. They have unique technology. They steal souls versus using organic technology, and they have a Saurian slave race.
Mm-hmm.
It's the Poek, and for the Yuuzhan Vong, it's the what are they called
Chazrak?
again? Chazrak, right? But we learned that apparently there's been an uprising. It's the Ssi-Ruuvi, and the Pwek are now trying to make peace with the Bakurans, who are obviously terrified because they're basically this pretty isolated planet who've been living next to these murdered dinosaurs from like pretty much outside the galaxy for a while now. Um, and there's some political kind of uprising on the planet because obviously there's a lot of people who are scared of dinosaurs, and they don't see the Pwek as being too different from the Ssi-Ruuvi. And one of the supposed terrorists is Melena Thanas, or is her last name Thanas, or is
Yeah.
it?
And
Yeah, okay. I couldn't remember if she had his last name or her last name, Captain or Thanas. But yeah, so that's kind of where we're brought to at the beginning of the novel.
yeah, so when Han and Leia get there, there's like I think a Ssi-Ruuvi ship in orbit, and they're very confused by it. But the one of the big sticking points with the Ssi-Ruuvi had been like their technology and techment is basically turning people into batteries and hooking them up to power all their shit. Because like they make it sound like they haven't figured out another power source ever. This was the first bit of electricity they stumbled upon, which
Mm-hmm.
seems unlikely to me. But hey, if that's your premise, go with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But now, because they're still using attachment, but Han and Leia are assured that it's not bad anymore because it doesn't hurt anymore. People can do it voluntarily. It's much more efficient. So everyone who's still attached, like they can't get their bodies back, but at least they're not in pain. Everyone's happy now.
And they're not being forced to do it.
Yeah, if you're
Things will last
sick,
longer.
there is some eugenicist like undertones to some of the suggestions that are made.
Overtones later, but yeah.
Yeah. Uh, but yeah, so they're getting ready for this ceremony to really formalize the alliance between the Pwek emancipation movement and the Bakurans. Uh, but it turns out, no, not real. It was just a trick to consecrate the world because the Ssi-Ruuvi, they don't want to go and die on someone else's planet if it's not been church sanctioned. So they needed to be allowed onto the planet for long enough to do their ceremony, and then they can launch their invasion. Like this should have been obvious, because not only were the Ssi-Ruuvi just painted brown, which
Yeah.
not good, not a good look. We don't.
No.
Again, we disavow.
We disavow.
But they had the ships they brought were fucking landers and a ship that is called a planetary assault cruiser. Not
Yeah. I was just left kind of wondering, like, why couldn't they just do it in like some cave somewhere, like sneak on planet and just kind of like
yeah. They've lived
consecrate
nearby.
it like on a farmland or something, like like put like a really big jacket on.
It's new Ssi-Ruuvi in a trench coat.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
a hat.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, whoa, just sitting on a bus.
It's all hubris.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh.
yeah,
And then someone accuses them of like, "Oh, are you Ssi-Ruuvi? How dare you? I'm a Barabel."
yeah. Or like maybe it has to be in like a stadium or something, and like you're like, man, this Taylor Swift Super Bowl halftime show is really weird. I haven't understood a single word.
It's actually part of their religion that if it's not broadcast on the local public radio stations, it's not a real
Yeah,
consecration.
yeah. It needs to be accessible for the people. It can't be cable locked.
We're dinosaurs, not monsters.
No sponsors. Are you mad? Um, yeah, I did like. I will say, I thought the attack was really cool. Like, I did like the moment of the. I just thought that this book kind of generally did a good job of building up like how kind of terrified everyone was
Mhm.
of the of the war and the creatures. And we also spend some time. Obviously, there's a lot of drama of Jaina trying to figure out what's going on. And we visit lots of the planet we hadn't seen before, and like a lot of it is just completely in shit. Like the city is like the main part of the city is pretty nice, but like the further away you get, the more you realize everything is kind of in ruins, and they haven't even repaired a lot of it.
Mhm.
So when they do kind of reveal that, oh, this one thing that has been preventing like a full scale invasion for a millennia, maybe, or 500 years or 200 years, has happened. It's kind of scary, and the dropships come, and all the monsters are coming out, and unfortunately, that happens with like 20 pages left. So
Yeah. Like there is a lot of setup, a lot of mystery of like what is actually going on, who's responsible. Because Melinza's been in jail. Jaina accidentally breaks her out and then ends up getting captured. Tahiri's still dealing with her identity crisis of whether she's Tahiri or whether she's Rena Quad.
the worst part of the book.
Yeah.
That ending part was so fucking corny.
Have you ever thought
I
about maybe not doing anything about this?
I couldn't believe what I was reading. It was like straight out of like, I don't know, like some like show about a vampire with like 60 episode seasons that have been on for 30 years. Like she's got two personalities now, and the only way she'll move forward is to be able to. She's got to embrace her Rima. Which, like, also I will say, Leia not very tactful when she brings that up first time.
No.
Where
Leia,
like,
I don't think Tahiri should be with them. This is
no,
unhealthy for everyone.
yeah, yeah,
Like,
sure.
Leia lures Tahiri into their room with a little statuette that they'd found in the last book, and Tahiri is not really in her right mind, and then Leia just kind of goes off on her in an unkind way.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Um, but I had that in my notes. My favorite part of the book, like bar none. I think you probably already know what it was.
I don't
So
remember the foreskin, but
no. It's near the end, um, where they're the Ssi-Ruuvi have just attacked, and they think the prime minister's dead, but he shows up, and he's like, "Those damn fluties," or I think that's what they call him.
yes.
And Jaina, out of nowhere, is like, she's really taken aback because it's such a horrendous slur, and she's like, that slur was disgusting, especially coming from him. I'm like, for one, they're called fluties because they make like fluting, whistling sounds sometimes between roars, and like, I think if like she doesn't at that point know that he's double crossed them. I think if the fluties are like fully genociding your planet, like I think that's probably not a really shocking thing to hear somebody say.
Well, I think Han drops it when they first arrive, but she doesn't really care then.
Hard
But
to, like, yeah,
it's
Dad would
used
say that.
to highlight like, oh, it sounded especially bad coming from him the way he said it.
Yeah, fluidies. The other thing I marked down was Galactic Alliance, Galactic Alliance slash Twitter, and it just reminded me of like, you know how like people have to figure out whether they want to call it like Twitter or X now. It's like X, or people say like X, the website formerly known as Twitter,
Mhm.
or like most people would just say Twitter. I feel like if this were more realistic, like nobody would be calling it the fucking GFFA.
No,
They'd just be calling it the New Republic still. Like
they
come on.
do all the time.
Yeah, and it's just like
Why did we
it's like, yeah,
rename this?
if you call it like if you're in a conversation with like your buddy, you talk about the war and he calls it the GA or the GFFA, you're like, buddy, come on. Like if I'm talking to my friend and he's like, do you see that post on X the other day? I'd be like,
the fuck up.
okay.
Absolutely not. But yeah,
I had important notes, as you can tell.
I did have a note on where the Rin spy was helping. Tahiri starts talking about how the male aggression in the other species is always so weird, but very, very woke.
Also, aren't Rins supposed to be like 3 feet tall?
No, they're not. They're tall, but they're not that tall. It is kind of
I always
strange.
thought, I always
They
thought they're really short, is what I mean.
3 feet. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I said
Like, I always
tall. I
thought
meant
they're
short.
really short, but I guess not.
I heard meters
Yeah.
for some reason.
No.
In
No,
the
no.
same. It's entirely my fault. But
Yeah.
yeah, so Han is equally racist as Kundertal here. And he's like, I just wanted to talk to the Rin so I can ask about Droma. Which,
Like, yeah, all the Rin know Droma, which to be fair, they do run like a massive intelligence underground.
like, the implication I think is supposed to be that this is all Droma's idea, but the
Yeah.
guy's just like, no, don't know Droma. Shut the fuck up.
He's like, might know Droma though. I might know Droma. I can ask. Someone knows Droma. I know Droma. Droma's my brother.
But the Rin are the one who are giving them.
In that trash can right there.
Okay, now that's unacceptable.
Looking for clues. He says it himself. He's like, yeah, we look for clues.
They're just playing a galaxy-wide scavenger.
So, yeah, you know how you heard bubbling in your toilet the other day? You thought it was clogged. That was Droma.
Charlie clogged his toilet toys. It was actually.
Oh my god, Charlie clogged his toilet. Did I tell you guys? I go to pick him up to take him to the airport. He's like, mate, I think I just clogged the fucking toilet. I was like, are you serious? He's like, yeah, I think I just clogged the toilet. So I go in. I'm like, okay, let's take a look. Sure enough, he clogged it. I'm like, bro, like, you had to do this right now, so I had to deal with it. And like, I got the plunger and I'm giving it, and like, I flush it and it starts coming up through the bathtub, and I'm like, oh my fucking god! Like, this guy, he literally just clogged the toilet and left the country. But
When he went
I was
through
like,
security,
no.
he had a.
I was like, there's a 0% chance I'm doing this, so I just like instantly called the landlady. I was like, hey, just so you know, this happened. I'm not living here. I'm watching the apartment for him. I'm not dealing with it. I sent her a picture. This is where the water's at. And I just left. No, I haven't been back since.
Burn the place down.
Yeah, and she texted me. She was like, yeah, I got the maintenance got to go, and he couldn't fix it, so we're gonna need the plumber. And like, I was like, okay, cool. But like in my heart, I was like, yeah, I don't care. Like, I don't want to be in the loop on this. I don't. No one lives here. I don't need to be in the loop on this.
Was the story told on X2 last week?
This one?
No, the other one.
Oh, about him flooding the place? I don't think we. Yeah, we talked about that. Yeah,
we did. Okay,
yeah.
I wasn't sure if we'd given away something we weren't supposed to that Charlie didn't want it there, but it's too late now.
No,
he made you deal with it, so it's your story.
Oh my god! Wait till I tell you the other fucking. Oh, Charlie's giving me so much fucking stress. Yeah, we'll tell it here. So I got a text from Sam, who owns the apartment, and he's like, "Hey, can you tell Charlie to send me the tenant insurance stuff?" I was like, "Oh, okay, sure." This was like This was he texted me this the day that Charlie and I were like going out, the bus sleep day. And I'm like, okay, sure. And then I texted Charlie, hey, just send Sam that thing. And he goes, yeah, mate, I think there was a problem. I was like, oh my fucking god, what do you mean you think there was a problem? He's like, well, I never got receipt. And I'm like, okay, can you just like, but you did like confirm it, right? And he goes, oh my fuck. I'm like, what do you mean? And he goes, I forgot to send off for the tenant insurance. So, and tenant insurance, for those who've never rented, costs like $10 a month, at least in Nova Scotia. But so basically, he flooded 2 apartments below his and didn't have tenant insurance. Thankfully, it's okay because the building had insurance, and and not there was no damage in his actual unit, but I almost had a heart attack.
Well, it's mostly contents though that.
Yeah.
So wouldn't have really done much.
Well, I was also just worried. Like, I thought Sam was going to get in trouble because like they don't like you not to have.
Yeah.
Like, it was in the lease, so he just forgot to send it off, and like, first he played it off like they never got back to him, and then I like kind of pushed, and he's like, "Yeah, mate, I didn't send it off."
Classic. But back on Bakura, where no one's flooding any toilets. We have all this comes to light. The Kiramak was the Ssi-Ruuvi leader, killed. The Pwek actually start rising up. And we find out that Kundertal was an intact robot the whole time. And there's so many callbacks here because it's the same people who made the Leia bot from Jedi Prince.
Oh, is it? I didn't pick
Yeah.
up on that.
The human replica droids that are made there, same company made Guri from Shadows of the Empire. It's all connected. Okay. So, because the whatever they called the person, the sommelier of Ornidax, or whatever his fucking name was, that's the someone who was involved in making the HRDs before. So they really did some deep pulls.
The main issue, I didn't pick up on all that. That's pretty cool. But the main issue with the other ones was that they can't really they can't get the brain working. So now they've got like an actual soul in there controlling it. So
yeah, it does seem kind of weird. Like they take the life energy, but then the life energy remains conscious. So like if you're put in a vacuum cleaner, you're controlling the vacuum cleaner with your soul.
Yeah.
But if your fucking battery is powering 2 different things, are you in 2 places at once? How's that work? Or is it like a limit 1 per customer thing? You can't.
I think it's 1 per customer. Yeah, okay. I don't think you can split up like that.
Okay. But you can have something that takes multiple people. Like the Shrees are like probably powered by 1,000 people. Like everyone gets a turbo laser.
I can't remember if this was just a joke I made or if it was actually in the book, but I thought there was something about like someone was controlling a door, like just a door in one of the ships. But maybe that might have just been a joke. I made as well. But isn't there like an uprising at the end of Truce of Bakura where like the souls turn against the ship, or am I misremembering?
I don't know. Like, it's been so long since I've read that. I haven't read it since we did it for TopCaf. But like Luke can sense Luke was able to sense the souls. That's how they're able to know that like they're not in pain now, like the Ssi-Ruuvi are saying. Because I guess that's why they weren't able to tell that Kundertal like anything was up with him, because he just felt like a normal person, a normal living person, because all of his energy was there. So, like, if you didn't just get greedy, if you just accepted your life, like if you got a droid body you were willing to live in, and you were nice to the Pwek,
yeah, like
you could live forever.
Although I do wonder whether like. Yeah, he didn't know this, but obviously it's actually the Yuuzhan Vong who made the suit, which is very unlike them. And I kind of wonder.
No, I think he paid to get the suit made with his own money, and then they like when they were attaching him, they slipped a restraining bolt onto it. I don't think they had it made because like the money he wanted was the money that he spent on the suit, because he was promised a 50% rebate if with one purchase of a Bakura.
Imagine telling a fucking 12-foot tall raptor with a gun on his spaceship that you want money. Like, I wouldn't even be returning. I'd be taking my suit and going as far away as
Yeah,
possible.
like that's what I'm saying. Like, why do these? It's the same thing with like the Ssi-Ruuvi needing a whole fucking football stadium to do their consecration. He only wants to live forever if he can get a power base and his million credits back.
He even realizes he could do it with time.
Yeah,
He's just
he's like,
lazy.
what's the point in living if I'm not rich?
Also, like, he was the prime minister. Like, steal shit.
Well,
Like
everyone
take
knows now that he's not.
No, I know, but like take the Bakuran cutlery on the way out, like the Bakuran royal jewels. Like if the Ssi-Ruuvi are gonna fucking wipe the planet out, that's gonna be worth a lot.
Yeah, I guess, but once it's already not working, like,
Yeah.
did he? Are you saying he should have made a stash of like a cutlery drawer that he just keeps in his escape ship all the time?
I think like just I think like if Justin Trudeau needed to steal enough money to pay for maybe not half a robot body, but I feel like there's enough shit. Well, actually, given like where they house the prime minister, maybe not. But if like if Donald Trump wanted to steal enough stuff from the White House, I think he could make a decent amount of money, right? And imagine like you're the leader of a whole planet.
Yeah, but it's all repulsor lifts there,
Yeah.
so it's not going to go well. Like everyone, I don't know if there's a very nice repulsor. It's not a nice place, Bakura. It
Well,
doesn't seem great.
I think parts of it are really nice, and then a lot of it is really shitty. Like the way the actual heart of the city described sounds pretty nice, and then like it just goes to shit really quickly.
Yeah, I suppose. But sadly, no forever life. It felt a bit almost like a Marvel post credit scene when he's on the shuttle about to get killed, and then
Yeah.
like Athena looks at the camera and says, "It's time to get back to work," and then they end, but they we never get back to it.
Nope.
So,
Nope.
anything else you want to say about the book before we give our totally objective, correct ranking?
No, I mean, I liked it. I thought it had some extremely cheesy parts, like the fact that this random maintenance worker is like trying to heal Tahiri's mental anguish from being Vong formed. I was like, who is this dude again? Oh yeah, he's the guy from help them break into the sewers. So yeah, he does esoteric healing. But yeah, I liked it. I'm just gonna say right now, I'm just gonna give this book a B.
That's what I already did on the spreadsheet for myself to know that I wasn't letting your opinion influence mine. That's 2 Bs. It's a nice, good score. We have 3 books left in the New Jedi Order.
Crazy.
Next week, we are going to be doing the Invasion Comics Part 2, I think.
Yeah, and then you're going right.
Yeah, I'll be gone the week after that. So the 19th, Invasion. 26th, no podcast. And then the 3rd of October, hopefully we'll be able to do Reunion.
What's that?
The third Force Heretic book.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant like the.
The
Is the name
podcast
of
will
the?
be having a reunion, yeah.
Yeah, no. I was thinking. I was like reunion. Is that like some High Republic junior novel? I didn't know.
No, Reunion. And then I do want to do, as soon as we can, Glass Abyss, the Mace Windu.
Yeah, that's what I was. I thought it was like some new canon novel that you wanted to do that I forgot.
When does that actually come out? The Glass Abyss isn't out until October 15th. I think there was an audiobook already sent out,
Excuse me.
but
I haven't got it. I don't think.
maybe either way. I'd like to do Glass Abyss at some point, but if we can do Reunion on the 3rd, that gives us 3 weeks to work on a novel. I think we can pull that off. Then there's only
Go
2
for it.
NJO books left after that.
Which is wild.
Yep, it's been what, 2 years?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for
The
listening,
journey
everyone.
continues. I'm excited to get to. Well, I'm not excited to do bugs, but I'm excited to get to Legacy of the Force.
Yeah. Bugs are going to be a slog to get through.
Yeah.
Skip the bugs for a bit.
I think we could skip the bugs, but we'll see.
I don't know
It is
if we
only
can
3 bucks.
because it's
It's only $3.
yeah.
We should do it.
All right. Good night, everyone.